They like to make it interesting, I guess, apparently. But hey, I'll take the win. Played well at times, especially the second quarter, last 8 minutes of the game. Kind of spun our wheels at different times. It's obvious the things that we got to continue to clean up. We weren't very good on third down. Maybe on either side of the ball we can continue to get better. We really, struggled to run the ball, in the third quarter, and then the last 8 minutes of the game, all of a sudden it reappeared. And I do think that the positive that comes out of it is if you stay committed to your plan, eventually it's going to come through. And it's always easy when things don't work. The first thing most people want to do is throw the plan in the garbage and start over. And that's about the last thing I think you can do with the football team, because then all of a sudden you're dismissing all the reps that you took all fall camp, all spring, and said that they don't matter anymore. There's probably people out there that say we're lucky to win. I'm okay with that. I'd rather be lucky than have lost.
Coach, with JDP said, I think he was in on 11 tackles, including that big one that basically turned the ball over for Nevada and then gave you the ball to Brady so they run it out. Can you speak about what his play was tonight?
Well, it just not tonight, but all year. I mean, he has been, he's probably hit, 6 games in, he's probably over 50 tackles already on the year. Tremendous leader, just a great part of the locker room, great part of the unit. And he's helping young guys behind him, and that's what you want to see, servant leadership out of your best. When your best players are your best leaders, you got something special going on.
What particular struggles did you see from the offense in the second half, and just the way things were kind of working with, especially in the run game, especially?
Well, I think we and again, I need to be careful how I say this, because again, I think we have the best staff in the country and the best staff on the West Coast. So I think we got away from the run game a little bit. We got frustrated, and so we got into some 5-step. I thought we could have used maybe some quick game a little bit and got the ball out faster. We knew they had good pass rushers. We knew they had players on the edge, and they were going to dial up some designer pressure. So we just got away from who we were, and then the last 8 minutes, we had to just rededicate ourselves to what we've been working on, who we are. Like I said, it was a roller coaster at times tonight offensively, and then third down we struggled. I'm trying to find it on here. We were 3 of 13. We got 2 big ones late. I think going into that last series we were 1 of 10. That's not a recipe for success.
And then particularly from the positives you saw, maybe in the second quarter when you get these turnovers and you capitalize on the turnovers and you're able to punch it in that aspect, do you take that from this game, or does the sour taste?
No, we're gonna celebrate all victories. We're gonna celebrate all wins. Defensively, what is it? 8 turnovers now in 2 games. When you give up 17 points or less, I think you win about 80% of your games. I don't think there's a person in here or a person in our stadium or in this building that wouldn't take 80%, wins or a winning rate at 80%.
Coach, you started the second half with 4 3-and-outs, and then that amazing last drive where you burned the last 8+ minutes off the clock. What changed between that 4th and eventually the 5th drive that won you the game?
Well, you know what? If I knew exactly, I would probably be a millionaire and I wouldn't be sitting up here. But I think we got back, as you saw in a couple of those 3-and-outs, we just went out there, and all of a sudden I think we started to press a little bit in our play calling, the personnel on the field, and I think we just had to take a deep breath and just trust our training, go back to the things that we were good at, and that's what we did. And then Brandon Ramirez, what a great job. Limited reps during the course of the game, but comes in and gets 40 big-time yards for us.
And that big conversion on that last drive, E.J. Warner scrambling for 11, 12 yards to get that first down. Tell us about that, right? It seemed pretty big.
Well, hey, of course it was third down, so it was a big, otherwise we knew they were going to bring a bunch of pressure on if we had a punt. But again, E.J. caught him playing a bunch of back-to-the-ball defense, and I think people sometimes minimize the ability of EJ to take off and run. That hasn't been who he is over the course of his career, but he's a solid athlete, and he's a guy that can hurt you with his legs.
Coach, the defensive line pretty much forced 2 interceptions with their tips. Was there any tips that you got from?
No, that's something we work on every week. Just trying to block shots. And if we get tips and overthrows, we gotta have those as turnovers. And so anytime we can get our hand up, I think that's a really good thing, and our guys do a good job. It's something that both our D-line coaches, Coach O and Coach Geely, both emphasize every day in practice.
And the chaos in the second quarter with all the turnovers and scores, just how hard is that to manage the momentum swings, the emotions on Saturday?
I think probably I tried not to have too many emotional swings, or at least show them, because if I'm panicked, then everyone starts to panic. And so, again, just get back to your training, get back to who we are. Let's not change let's not throw out the plan because that's what we've been practicing. And again, I think you all of a sudden lose a bunch of credibility when you get away from what you've been practicing or who you are.
Coach, was there someone or something said in the huddle going into that final drive that really sparked the offense?
I think they just knew that they could put it away, that they could end it. And, that was a big time play. I don't know how many plays it was, but I know it was 8 minutes plus. 2 big time third down conversions, great ball security, all that stuff. So, we need to lean on that group. That group has changed who they are. They practice different. They're climbing. Again, we all know success isn't linear. It's up and down. We had our ups and downs today, but we finished in a good mode, in a good place. They're in there beating themselves up over it because they're frustrated on the game. We won. All right, we're going to celebrate all wins, and we're going to fix it come Monday.
And how refreshing is it to have a bruising back like Braden to come in and ice the game?
It's awesome. It's great, and I think as we continue to evolve as an offense, we got to find different ways to use him because he is a big physical kid, runs really well. He's a one-cut guy, has solid hands out of the backfield as well, and so I'm excited about him.
Coach, in the moment, it just felt like you guys were on a roll in the second quarter, but in the framework of 60 minutes, how critical were those takeaways in winning this game?
Well, it was huge. That was and again, I know here it says we're 3 out of 4 in red zone opportunities, but it was probably 1 out of 4 touchdowns. We kicked 2 field goals. We had opportunities to, shoulda, coulda, woulda. It could have been 35-3 at halftime if we just scored touchdowns instead of kicking field goals. And so we have plenty to work on. We are far from a finished product, but that's what's exciting, when you can find ways to win games and even not play your best. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Coach Choate and Nevada. They came in here, had a great plan, and played extremely hard.
Can you speak on the challenges of Nevada's D-line and what you guys had on their quarterback that ultimately played most of this game?
Well, I don't know if they played 3 different quarterbacks tonight, so it's hard to have anything. Chuba Purdy has played more football than anybody else. He's been a couple different places. When he started at Arizona State, was at Nebraska, and then now at Nevada. We have seen bits and pieces of the others. We kind of knew what their MO was. Each one had kind of a different game plan or had shown some different things on film. And so we just tried to coach our kids on what to anticipate. And, again, getting our hands up, getting our hands in throwing lanes, creating some turnovers or takeaways early in the game was critical.
And on their D-line, just how tough of a matchup was
They
that?
were good. They were good. They were exactly what we anticipated. And then you throw in some designer pressures that they came up with. They did a really good job on third down.
Thank you.
The offensive game plan, typically with the run, sort of stifled in the second half. Was there a game plan to sort of counter that? Sorry. Nevada was sort of like limiting your
Yep.
guys' run. How were you guys able to counter that?
Well, as you saw late in the game, we jumped into a bunch of gap scheme stuff, and so we started to run some counter. We started, which was good. We were able to collect all the movement, get the end kicked out, and get downhill with Brandon. Then we ran some duo where it was just vertical combos trying to climb to the play side backer, and we just went back to what we were good at, some day 1, day 2 install stuff. And again, if people are gonna find ways to beat you, make them beat you doing your best stuff.
It's a 4-quarter game, but all 20 points came in the second quarter. What message does that send to your team, either positive or negative?
I think, again, I don't need to speak for them. They're frustrated that we didn't have better production offensively. I don't need to come in on Monday and belittle anybody. We're going to continue to get better. I see it on their face. I could tell when I was in the locker room. But I tell you this, all 3 phases had at some point during the game, special teams, defense, offense had to elevate their play, and we had to lean on each other. And so again, creating a team that is based on complementary football, I'll take it. Because one of these days, we're going to get all 3 phases going, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Coach, can you talk about, I don't know, how difficult is it when your offense is out of sync, going 3 and out, and then they put it together to grind it out for that final possession?
Well, I think it's just I don't know if I want to use the word difficult, but I'm really excited about that they were able to do that. That was a moment that, you know, you knock on wood, you hope that's a defining moment for those young men. You know, football doesn't define who they are, their character, the size of their heart. And man, they came out and they showed it at the end. It'd have been easy to get chippy, you know, get in our own way, false starts, all that stuff. We kind of eliminated some of those things. We got the ball downhill, and you know, I'm excited. Good for those guys. We can lean on them. There was a moment, 8 minutes of really good ball at the end of the game, so we know we can do it. And now hopefully we need to take that energy into next week.
And are you the type of coach that enjoys that type of smash mouth holding the ball?
Heck yeah, heck yeah. If we could do that the whole game, we could get this thing over, you know, in about 75 minutes, right? So that's what I'd like to do. Less stress.
Coach,
I can hear you.
you can, okay. How good a sign is it for your football program and your football team that you said the guys look a little disappointed, that, you know, you're a little bit frustrated,
Sure.
yet you guys are 5-1 and you're coming off a win?
Right, and that's them. That's the body language that I read in there. It's always a race to maturity, especially with a new staff, new players, new situation. We're still trying to figure each other out, but for them to know that there's a standard that they've created, not Matt Entz, but our players have created, and when they don't get there or they don't continue to elevate the standard, that they want to get back out there. These guys will be ready. They'll want to play Tuesday this week because it's just some of the things that we didn't do well enough, you know. But at the end of the day, we played well enough to win. And again, we have to celebrate all victories.
And then kind of your take on EJ. Again, you know, 18-26, you know, struggled at times, but again, when the game was on the line, came up with a couple of huge
No,
plays.
2 big catches with our tight ends right down the middle of the field in that last drive. That was big time for us. But you know, EJ continues to get better. You know, we need to look at some things from a self-scout standpoint. I think they had a beat on some split recognition when they had the interception. I mean, they jumped it before he even threw it. And so we need to be better as a staff. We'll continue to clean that stuff up. But he's doing a good job. I mean, a huge 3rd down conversion, made throws, 18-26. Again, completing 66-67% of his passes. You know, and I don't know. I should just look. That's why I have this piece of paper right here. You know, threw for 2 touchdowns again. So I mean, we're coming, and he's going to be in here right away tomorrow, watching it. You know, in with Coach Davis, right, reflecting and trying to get better from the game.
And then just curious, you know, a couple of the really positive signs, you know, for Richie Anderson there, was very
Yep.
involved in the passing game, and then also Josiah Freeman, you know, catching a couple touchdown passes today.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I think, would you agree that's something to kind of build on, and it's
Oh,
something
of
you
course,
expected out
of
of those
course.
guys?
You know, when our best players and some of our most talented players are making big time plays at big time moments, that's a positive sign. It's good to see Josiah's kind of been battling a little bit of an injury, lower body injury, and for him to be healthy and get back going and get into the flow of the game was really big. You know, with us losing Zeke early in the game, it put more of a role on Josiah, you know, to be in there in the run game and pass game. But again, he did it without blinking, without flinching.
Thanks, Coach.
Awesome. Guys, have a great night.